only thing that stands between you and your dream is the will to try and the belief that is actually possible. It's a beautiful quote quoted by Joel Brown. So, with this quote, I would like to begin our talk show named Conversation with Consultants with episode 21 of our Guest Talk series. Good evening, everyone. I am Aditi Jain, Strategic Clients Advisor of SK Associates and Group.
And I am Anjali Kumari, Compliance Manager of SK Associates and Group. We both are your hosts for today's talk show. Before we begin our show, let me briefly introduce SK Associates and Group. We are an ISO certified management consulting firm registered under MSMED Act 2006 with the Government of India. Our mission is to provide consulting services to student entrepreneurs globally, covering areas such as compliance, operation, marketing, research and development, human capital, strategy, and operation. Our passion lies in helping aspiring entrepreneurs bring their dreams to life and contribute to global economic growth.
Entrepreneurship is a catalyst for change and innovation. It's a powerful force that can reshape industries, transform lives, and make the world a better place. We are committed to support student entrepreneurs on their journey, equipping them with the tools, knowledge, and networks they need to succeed.
Now, before we begin our show, let's take a moment to introduce our guest for today. It's given us immense pleasure to welcome Ms. Raji Aiyer, co-founder, Appearition, to this special event. We are truly honored by your presence today, and we are thrilled to have you share this momentous occasion with us.
Thank you for having me, and it's great to be here as well. It's a lovely Sunday evening, so thanks for sharing the space with me.
Welcome, ma'am. So, my first question to you, ma'am. Can you share your journey and what inspired you to start Appearition?
It's a great question. I'm an entrepreneur by accident. So I didn't always want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't think that I was going to be an entrepreneur. In fact, I still don't think I'm one. I think I just take on roles to get some things done towards a vision that we all work towards. But what really started me was, this is my third venture. I've always had a co-founder, and I'm a person who believes in taking a vision and translating that into action. And that's what made me an entrepreneur today. Over the course of the years, I've always been excited by technology and what technology can do for us and the changes that it brings and the transformation that it does to both our personal lives and our work lives, right? So I've always looked at technology as a catalyst, not so much as a driver, but as a catalyst. So that's what made me to go on this journey, especially exploring emerging tech in XR and AI, in augmented reality, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence. So I became an entrepreneur because I wanted to see products in the hands of my users. So if entrepreneur is the word, so there I am.
Great. So, what challenges did you face when founding Appearition, and how did you overcome them?
So the key challenges are always, the first thing is, ideas are great, concepts are amazing, especially when you're playing with emerging tech. You're always blown away by the jazz and the buzz it creates, and technology really gets you excited and going. But the challenge has been, for me personally, is to be grounded about what the real use of that technology is. How can it be put to use in terms of not just in a productive manner, but also in an ethical and generally in a good manner for the benefit of the enterprise, right? So I just can't sell something because it's really jazzy and quite exciting, but need to be something that brings value to the customer. So the challenge has been very early on is to identify those use cases and that value that it brings for the business, and how can we build a product that delivers value. So having a product mindset and delivering value as a key driver for the business has been the challenge, because place where we work in, it's really, really exciting. And there's lots of stuff, there's lots of media. And when you talk about those things, people naturally tend to listen to you. So whilst selling happens intrinsically, but the value delivery and being grounded about that has been the challenge.
Okay. So, ma'am, how important is innovation in entrepreneurship, especially in the tech industry?
I think innovation underpins everything that we do. The moment you want to think about launching a product, or if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, it always starts with what problem we want to solve in the marketplace and how we solve that problem. And technology kind of becomes a catalyst, and innovation is at the forefront. So it is about innovative ways of solving a specific problem for a specific user segment, and how effectively do we solve that problem for them so they'll actually open up their purses and pay for it, right? At the end of the day, that's one bottom line. Also, can we consistently solve that problem using innovation? So it's not about solving a problem here and today, and then you put something in and that doesn't last very long. So it needs to be a sustainable solution of sorts. So innovation is an ongoing cycle at that, is to solve a problem and make sure that any new problem that arises, we keep solving with an existing structure and platform that we've put in there. So innovation underpins everything that we do. But the key thing to note is we just can't be innovating for the sake of doing innovation. It always has to be linked up to the problem that we're solving for the enterprise, and also the value that it needs to provide to the enterprise as well.
Great, thank you for highlighting. So what key skills do you believe are essential for successful entrepreneurship?
I think the skills at different levels. I think one if I look at it like a pyramid, the top part of the pyramid is things that you learn and grow. So knowledge, and actual physical hard skills, understanding basics of the numbers, financials, how do you read numbers, balance sheets and P&Ls, that kind of knowledge, whether you're a tech person or whether you're launching a tech product or whatever product that you launch, the numbers kind of underpin the baseline for that. So you just need to have a really good understanding of finance in general. If you don't have an understanding of finance in general, get some basics. I'm sure you can surround yourselves with people who will tell you what the best thing to do is, but there's nothing like knowing the numbers yourself. So as soon as you open up the books, you should be able to kind of point out where we are heading towards, look at data and statistics. And so those are some knowledge related skills. Obviously a good understanding of the tech landscape, the ability to, and then there's a layer of soft skills, right? So the ability to keep on learning new things. So to be able to read and digest a vast amount of information in a reasonably short period of time. How do you build those mental models and how do you expand your brain, the neuroplasticity around that to keep on understanding new pieces of information and make decisions in a short frame of time? So just the ability to read, understand, digest it and make systemic understanding of what you do and then be able to apply that. So whether it's about the tech landscape that's changing or macroeconomic factors that are changing, or even as little as, if you're playing in a niche area, everything that you need to know about the subject matter expertise of that particular industry vertical that you're playing in. You need to keep on reading and learning and keeping yourself abreast. So that's a layer of soft skill. Other than other soft skills around, change management, communication, leadership, more than anything else, the ability to work with people and also the ability to delegate work amongst people. So hiring the right people, getting them to actually, action your vision, translating your vision proactively and in a very easy, simple to digest format, and for them to be able to actually action that vision. There's a whole variety of soft skills that you need. But more than anything else, at the bottom of the pyramid as a soft foundation is your own personality growth, your self-growth and your self-traits that you need to depend upon. So over a period of time, you want to start to look at how you're managing your emotions around the people that you've built around in the business. So when things go pear-shaped, how do you react to it? especially around resilience and problem solving, because as an entrepreneur, more than anything else, this is the skill we rely on. Is every day there's a new challenge and there's a new opportunity. How do you keep your head in that space to understand what the challenge is or that opportunity is and actually action it? Take affirmative action towards achieving some goals, but at the same time being able to manage your resilience. So whenever there's a setback, failure, how do you go about thinking about it? What are some of the structures that you can put around yourself, support groups that you can have around yourself in terms of mentors and things like that, that will get you through the challenging phase? Because it's always a cycle. The highs are very high, the lows are very low in entrepreneurship. So it's about managing those highs and lows. So that, I think, is kind of like the foundation of the pyramid.
So, how did your education background from Stanford, Monash, and Annamala University contribute to your entrepreneurial journey?
It's actually the other way around in my case. I've always gone and studied the things that I want to learn about as a part of my journey. So I started my career as I did a business information systems course in Singapore, and I started my career as a BA, working with finance, accounting packages and implementing accounting packages in the freight industry. So when I was going through that, I was working predominantly with accountants, and I thought at that stage that I really loved numbers, but I didn't know how to read financial statements, right? And that was a critical thing when you're thinking about implementing accounting packages. So I thought I should go equip myself with it. So I went and did a bachelor's in finance, in business administration, specializing in finance and accounting, so that I could kind of understand what a trial balance looks like. So if there's something wrong in the data sets in the back end, I know how to look for exceptions, and I know how to build and run my own reports, so I can actually help the customers better. So that's how I started. And eventually, as my career grew, I was always playing in the cusp of finance, operations, and technology. And then eventually, as I became a team leader and a manager, and then I thought to myself, having challenges, growing the team, managing the team, just basically leadership skills. So that's when I went and got myself a master's in management. So it was predominantly around managing change, technology-driven change, and also managing people through the thick and thin of everything. So, and then fast track many years down the lane, I got into the entrepreneurship journey, and I was working with a number of customers who were building emerging tech products. So they're all wanting to build products. They all want to see how innovation can help them. And then I was working with them, building frameworks for them, building frameworks for myself, helping them understand how they could build and grow and scale a product. And then I thought to myself, being amongst a cohort of people who are constantly building leading edge products and learning from the experts would be amazing for me. Especially industry knowledge on how some people have navigated this journey and what can I learn from them. So that's what pretty much led me to Stanford, because I thought I want to be among people who've done bleeding edge products, but also in an institution that kind of offers that really good balance between in classroom learning, but also industry networking on what's really happening out there. So that's what led me to that. So it's always been about understanding what gaps were there, and how do I fill that up with the right people and the right university. So that's how my learning journey kind of transpired.
Nice to hear. So, what role do mentorship and networking play in developing a successful startup?
I think pretty much every aspect of our life, networking and mentorship play an amazing role. It's a part and parcel of the kind of world and the structures that we live in is necessarily driven by networks. I look at networks and mentorship very differently, I think, but one leads to the other, obviously. Networks are great, building the right kind of people around you, but also building this group of people that that you can tap on when you're looking for an expertise, or when you have a question, that burning question that needs answering, or if you're even looking to fill roles. You've got this wonderful customer and they're building this product, and there's a gap and you want this person to jump in and help you do a few things, whether it's a project manager or a product manager or a product designer. network always helps, because having a vast amount of network and like the community aspect of it, like for example, the one that SK Associates is building at the moment is there's a lot of peer knowledge that you can share and also people to tap on. But at the same way, I think it's also about what you offer to the network. So when you come across an opportunity that you know that people in your network can easily pull together a solution or a product, then you want to pass that opportunity on to the people in your network as well. So you bring together a really good group of people that you can deliver on, and there's a mutual value sharing as well. So there is value transfer between yourselves and the people in the network. So it's kind of like karma. So you get what you give, and you have to give as much as take as well. So network is a very mutually beneficial, lovely community and network people that you build around yourself. And you need to do that in terms of a wide variety or cross section. It's not just about the industry that you play in or the tech that you play in. You never know what subject matter expertise you'll need. So anyone that you meet that you can kind of click with, have really good conversations around, able to share what you're working on, what your company is like, what your product's like, and also understand what their life's like, whether it's from the health or whether it's from energy or whether it's from the mining sector. Once you have that conversation and you click with them, then it makes it easier for you to kind of keep having that conversation until maybe there's a value transfer that happens at some stage. It may happen in most cases, it may not even happen in some cases, but it's good to have that people around you because they give you an alternate point of thought. They'll challenge your assumptions. They might tell you something that we never know about. And they always give you an alternate way of thinking and something new to think about. So that's one thing I'm very conscious about going into events and things like that, is meeting new people who are not in the tech space, who are in a diverse industry vertical, because they always give you something to think about. But now, on the other hand, when you think about mentorship in general, it's a place that I really, really love, because mentorship is that warm, fuzzy place where you can get a lot of support and a structure that supports you through a very, very challenging and tumultuous period, if I may say so. But also, it's a bit of it's almost like a mother kind of relationship, right? Your mentor draws the line, draws the boundaries, and tells you things like what it is. They're pretty black and white when it comes to telling you the reality of things and enabling you, but at the same time pushing you to make the change that you need to make, but also providing that warm, fuzzy feeling of, oh, everything's falling apart. How am I going to manage this? They come and tell you that, look, everybody's been through this. It's going to be fine, but it's about how we're going to take some actions and how we're going to get together. Mentors play a very, very important role, whilst there's all this warm fuzziness, but it's about finding the right mentor. At different stages of your career, you'll need different kind of mentors. Not one mentor can't necessarily see you through all stages of your life. They need to be people that you can relate to, and you also kind of look up to as well. So you are in awe of what they've done or achieved in their lives. Almost you want to aspire to be them, but you can also relate to them because you understand when they say things, you understand how it matters to you. It's almost a one-way relationship. You take in a mentorship. You literally do take, but you're very comfortable in that relationship of taking it because that's what you've set the boundaries for. A mentor often challenges you, helps you set your own smart goals, and enables you to achieve those goals, but not by telling you what to do, but enabling you to find that answer yourself. So a good mentor always asks you a couple of leading questions to arrive at the answer yourself on who can you reach out to, who's going to solve that problem for you, how do you learn this thing, or maybe you need to take some sudden, immediate action on a problem that you've been sitting on and you've been postponing to take action in. Because often when you have multiple competing priorities, the most pressing problem you might try and ignore. So they will ask you and push you towards taking that immediate affirmative action that will actually launch you into the next stage, but it's a pretty hard action to take sometimes. It may be about letting go of someone in your business, or maybe about, taking the budget of this marketing initiative that you've kind of sunk some money into and things like that. But they're very good decisions in the long run, but they may not seem like the right decisions at that time or uncomfortable decisions. So I personally value mentorship quite a bit. I'm always happy to offer that to people as well in different stages of their career, because it's really important to have that person who you can turn to in times of need. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's always a time of need. Every month is a time of need that you need to go to them for. So it's pretty very, very important. If you haven't got a mentor, I would recommend for everyone to start looking through the people that they know and seeking out. And mentors may not even be people that you know already. You can, in today's world, it makes it much easier. The world's so small. You can reach out to anyone that you aspire to be, to try and build a relationship and see if they can be your mentor. Ask them out for a coffee, or just a quick call if they're on the other side of the world, and see if you can relate to them, if you can have a conversation, and if they're willing to give their time to be your mentor. Often I find in my life that mentors, you can get paid coaches and things like that, but mentors generally are not looking to take anything back from you, but are happy to do that. And, they may then transform themselves to be on your advisory board capacity and things like that over a period of time. But you normally have a reasonably personally good relationship with them before they get into any board roles or advisory roles with you. So yeah, hopefully that's a lot about mentorship that helps people.
It's great, ma'am, to hear. So, ma'am, how do you stay updated with the latest trend and technology in the AR industry?
That's a great question. We have people turning to us as experts. They rely on the fact that we keep ourselves updated. And as a part of that, I think reading is a standard one that everybody will say, continuously reading information. It's really, with all the available information at the moment, it's really challenging to read the right kind of information and kind of separate facts from opinion pieces, right? There's dime a dozen ways articles get thrown at us at this stage. So what's happening, to the Apple glasses, and who's using it and what's the cost of it. Even before it's been released, you already know a lot of the feature sets and everyone's writing about it. Then you've got a whole lot of influencers who use these devices, who use technology and put up a lot of videos. And I read a very diverse section of information. So I look through what the key influencers say, look through the product specs, read through TechCrunch, and a whole lot of this popular journals that are out there, HBRs, and also look through people's actually, the Stanford labs, whatever articles they put out and things like that. But I also use other research papers. So we look through the Forrester research. The Gartner research is normally and the Gartner articles, what the Gartner analysts say, are normally a little bit more objective, because they do look through the perspective of an independent analyst and look through all the possible technology, releases that are there. But even that is a little bit delayed, because they do, by the time they get to analyze and look through things, things have already progressed a lot more. So the main way is a lot of digital information, but reading from different sources and then making your own interpretation and analysis and then writing it down, whether it's a white paper or a small blog or something like that I write for my own reference and also for the reference of our customers to see what's happened. But importantly, translating that to why is it relevant for my customer groups and user groups? How is this relevant for them? Is this going to add value, or is this just an FYI? No, this is coming up. Or is it like, here's some funky news, no relevance to you, but look, it's really exciting to know about this. But often I look for stuff that's relevant to the user groups and customer groups. And I make my own write-ups. Obviously, I'm backed by a very, very good team of R&D scientists and things like that. So we do heavy research and development within the business. We have a chief scientist, so I go to him for his opinion as well on what I've read. I run that past them. I also speak if there's something that's really pressing and that's really blown my mind, and I think I must communicate this to my users or customers, I do go and speak to various research labs in and around the university. So in RMIT here, in Swinburne here, we often collaborate with people who do research research in these areas, in visual media, in AR and XR. So I reach out to them and ask them and tease this out on, what did you think of this? And, how long have you known about this? And have you done anything with this? Do you have any specific apps or use cases you've done with this? If we do this, is that a good way to approach this? Well, I'm thinking this is how it'll fit in for my customers in the education vertical. Is that a really good thing to think about? And, what are some of the challenges? Is this expensive? And, who can afford it? So just a varied number of things. Some of it is structured. A lot of it is unstructured and informal conversations that I have, and I collect that information. So it really, whilst there's so much information and, access to information is so easy, but making sense of it is getting harder and harder as you have too much to read and digest about. So, hearing from people is always a nice way of interpreting some of the information I read. So.
Thank you for sharing. So, what advice would you give to someone looking to start their own tech company?
First and foremost is look for the problems that you're solving. Know what problem you're solving for which customer segments or user groups. Validate the problem and the solution. And tech is a vehicle or is a catalyst on how you solve that problem. But the problem needs to be big enough, pressing enough to have scale. So think about what kind of an organization or a product that you want to build. What are you looking to do? Is that product going to be for 100 users, or is it going to be for 1,000 users? Is it a global problem that you're solving? So you'll have like globally X million users that can use your product. If it is, then the first thing to do is make sure you start to do some basic foundation work around benchmarking your concept and building some lean canvas around what is the problem you're solving, who are your user groups, why will they use this product or this tech from you, and how much will they really pay for it. And don't build a complete, I always say don't build a Mercedes right from the beginning, build a very small prototype, take it to your user groups, and tease out what is it that they like, don't like, and sometimes what you think is a solution to the problem may not even be a solution. They will almost always lead you to what the right way of doing or building your tech solution is, and focus on rapid prototyping and design thinking. So, build with the users, build for the users, and make sure that your user experience is top-notch. So make sure it's validate the problem, identify the problem, articulate the problem, and then the solution. And even if before even you start building anything, at least verbally go to those specific users who you think are your buyers and, have a friendly chat and understand if your solution really solves that problem. So use tech as a vehicle. Don't start. I think it's better not to start thinking that, I'm going to build an augmented reality product, but say that this is the problem and maybe AR might solve it. Maybe augmented reality with artificial intelligence may solve it. Maybe a bit of big data in there and analytics is required for the solution. So you kind of fit the tech into how a problem may be solved. That's I suppose, my 10 cents worth on that.
Great insight. So how do you balance the demand of being a CEO with personal life and other professional commitments?
I think it's a very common thing now, but I always like to say that, work life is not there, it's just life. So work is a very important and a good part of your life. And then life, work, there's home, and I've got children, so there's things to do with the children, the school, and things to go with it. I would love to say that I have a very good disciplined approach to it. If anyone said they've got clear boundaries and good discipline around it, I actually think they're lying. There is no disciplined approach to it. You literally go with the flow. There are times in the week where you'll be pretty heavy on work and pretty light on at home. So you may not have had the chance to catch up with people you wanted to, or do the things that you want to, or the laundry, or, prepare, home cooked very slow meals or whatever it might be. But there will be times when you will have to take a lot more hands-on approach at home and not at work. So you just kind of go with the flow on where the requirement is. You have a basic plan on what you want to achieve in the week, a basic routine that you want to follow, that you want to have some health and well-being into it. You need to have downtime, so you got to watch those movies or those series or whatever tickles your fancy a little bit to kind of take your mind off what's happening everywhere. But it's about slotting in and having a plan for the week, for the month, for the year, perhaps at large, but also just being flexible enough to understand that no 2 days is similar for an entrepreneur. So you just have to go with the flow and be kind to yourself. I've learned that the hard way is not to beat yourself up when you're not able to give that amount of time to one particular problem as much as you'd like to. It's not because you're not capable enough. It's just because, everyone's a human being and there's only so much you can do. If you really want to have that, you really want to be an available mother, wife, daughter-in-law, and an entrepreneur, I think sometimes some things have to give and take, and you just have to work out based on the priorities that you have for the week. Most importantly, again, I can't stress enough the support structures that you have to surround yourself with. Is, whether it's a partner, your husband, your parents, your having a maid or a cleaner or someone to take care of you, whatever it might be, it's finding the right support structures and people who will back you up. When you make mistakes, because when you're doing too many things, you are bound to forget things here and there and make mistakes, is that the people around you kind of understand that and not blame you for it, because things get pretty out of hand if you don't have that kind of relationship with the key people in your life. But it really does, just like in business, it's really about surrounding yourself with the right structures and people. It's the same approach to work. It's the same approach to life. Having the right mentors on either side, having the right people to back you up, it helps. It's not an easy thing to do. It's trial and error. Sometimes you give it a go. Sometimes some things work and some things won't work. And also when you have those times when you're overwhelmed, is to understand that you're overwhelmed and stop and pause and kind of get your head into doing things that you love doing, whatever it might be, so that you will actually find the joy back in, running your business or, coming home to your family and things like that. Otherwise, overall, it's just going to be miserable all out. If we don't pause and take that break, it's just going to be miserable all out. I don't think anyone has a perfect answer for that, but I would just say take each day as it comes. Not to overthink, not to over-plan, and most importantly, be kind to yourself and those around you, because it is the age of information where everyone's got a lot of stuff going on. The mind is always busy. There's too much information being thrown at us. So focus is hard, and being grounded and mindful is hard. But taking those breaks and just acknowledging that this is life. And the challenge that we have today, or the challenges that are getting thrown at us today, is so small in the bigger scheme of life. So what's so big for us today is necessarily not that great. Being on my third venture, I can clearly say that your venture doesn't define you as a person, but you as a person define the venture. So anything that goes wrong can always be turned around. And the problem that you think is so big is not that big. It's not as big as life itself. So on that very philosophical note, I think I don't have a very perfect answer, but take each day as it comes and be kind.
Exactly, very well said about that. So, what are some common mistakes you see new entrepreneurs make, and how can they avoid them?
There's a number of I think we all make a number of mistakes, and I can talk about a few of the mistakes that I've made. One is to think of the fact that technology solves all problems, and the technology itself will sell a product. Not really. The problem sells the product. The solution that you provide sells the product. So always, I keep on harping about it. I might sound like a broken record, but think of the problem that you solve and how easily you're solving it for your user or your customer, and always talking about how it makes their lives easier, or their workflows easier, is a better discussion to have than the technology that you're trying to sell to them. And the being close to your end user and understanding what they want and being emotionally divorced from your own product is actually a good space to be in, because often when users give feedback, the first reaction that we tend to do is to be defensive of the product that we've loved and built and kind of nurtured and cared for, right? And also put a lot of money into as well. So what the best thing to do is to build that with your user and take user feedback subjectively and objectively. Look at it as data points that they're giving you. Don't look at it as feedback. Look at it as data points they're giving you, and use a systemic approach in recording that feedback, analyzing that feedback from a data perspective, as opposed to a personal perspective, or, someone's poking holes in your product. I find that a lot of people get very defensive about their product. They feel like it's their own, people are kind of challenging their intelligence, but it's not. Even the world, there is nothing called the world's best product. All tech products have got bugs in them, issues in them. They're not always very easy to use. Even the ones that we use every day has got a lot of user experience holes in it. And some of them have got like hundreds of millions of dollars poured into them. So it's just to think through the first and the biggest problem to solve for the user, and then kind of go from there. And the second challenge is this absolute notion of success, or this absolute notion of the journey of an entrepreneur. It's not linear. Most of the media and the articles are driven around the success story, and it's always like the underdog story, right? Like from rags to riches, or I'm a dropout and I'm meant to be a unicorn, and things like that. You can be a unicorn, but it is a journey. So even for someone who did that, whilst the storyline is kind of like, look what I did in wonderfully in 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 15 years, but there's a lot of other factors and parts of the journey that never gets kind of spoken about. So know that your entrepreneurial journey, or our entrepreneurial journey, is our own, and we craft it. There is no rules on this is what it needs to be. You've been here, you must raise seed funding, you must be in Series A, you must be in Series B. This is how you must go to an IPO, you must be a unicorn, because that's what an entrepreneur is like. If I'm an entrepreneur, this is what I need to do. I need to work 12 hours a day, and I need to do this. I need to buy everybody a Mercedes car in my team. And there are no rules like that. Your journey is your journey. Think of your business as what you really want to get out of it. You might want your entrepreneurial venture to be a lifestyle business. So it funds you, funds your family, funds a niche group of employees and their family. You have kids, you buy a house, you grow, and you do whatever you want. It's a lifestyle business. Or you want to exit it and you want to be acquired. So maybe someone may buy it from you even before, you become a household name. Even before anybody knows you, someone may buy it from you. And that's still a very good exit. So it's about what you want to do for yourself, and it's not always about the money. There is a number in which you want to exit, but it's not always about the money. It's also about what you want to do post that. So embrace your entrepreneurial journey as yours. Don't benchmark it with others. It's very, very hard to say, but don't benchmark it with others because your product is yours. You know that best. Your skills are yours, and you know that best. And even if we make mistakes, it really doesn't matter as long as you're not playing in critical health or mission critical products and solutions. It really doesn't matter if you're building a tech product that's sitting in enterprises of different areas. It's really matter as long as you're not saving lives. That's the only area you need to be really being worried about whether you're doing the right thing, is if your software is going to be saving lives and if it's not going to work well, or if you've done something there. So just think about what you want to do fundamentally. And always the biggest mistake people do is having this linear thought process and which I had to in the past. I've had to, but after a few ventures, I kind of understand that each venture is has its own path and exits in its own way, and none of that can be questioned or be benchmarked by a similar business. So more than anything else, enjoy the journey. It's very rewarding to be an entrepreneur as much as it's challenging. So please enjoy the journey, and always think of all the skills that we learn. Don't underestimate the skills that we pick up and learn as an entrepreneur. It's a very, very important thing. People forget as an entrepreneur that they are actually still growing and learning skills. It's not expected that we know everything or we are the ultimate thought leaders in any space. We are learning and growing. So again, once more, be kind to yourself.
That can I'm audible.
Yes.
That clarifies a lot. So, what initiative do you believe are most effective in empowering youth in tech sector?
Sorry, come back on the question again. What kind of?
What initiative do you believe are most effective in empowering youth in tech sector?
If you think about youth, particularly the youth in the tech sector, I think a lot of the STEM initiatives that are being undertaken at a very early learning level in the schools, I think it's a really, really good start. I can only talk about my experience as a student in the early years versus what a student is doing these days. I share a little bit of an anecdote. So I work with the Monash Women in Tech Initiative. So I work with women engineering graduates or people who are doing engineering, women in engineering. I work in mentoring them. So one of the things that and that's a really good initiative, by the way. So it offers them the ability to find and kind of work together with mentors at a very early age and understand the importance of mentors as well. So even before they've actually started to think about what they want to do in their career, they know the power of having a mentor that will guide them through the whole journey, right? In that I've noticed that right now there is no particular linear way of thinking, even in even when people are studying. So this girl that I mentor, she actually is a chief product officer in a small startup already. So she builds and designs products. And on the same hand, she's also doing a double degree in engineering. So in software, I think in software and data science. So she's doing a double degree in, which is a 5-year course. So there's a lot of initiatives that are happening that are driving people to think differently. So be open to understand what it is. Having early on a STEM initiative in the schools and trying to get students more interested in core science and technology. And I'm not talking about, building apps and things like that, but actually going back to giving them, the working with their hands science. So, build a robot, build a Formula One car. Those kind of initiatives actually starts to help students understand the impact of design versus thought versus action and teamwork. And those are all very important things to grow up knowing as soon as you kind of start to think about what do I want to do as an entrepreneur. The other thing is, going into a lot of these activators and mostly, learn to be an entrepreneur, and they have the youth entrepreneurship programs. A number of organizations do the youth entrepreneurship programs where you go in, you design a product, you do a pitch, you're in front of an audience, and you have mentors who help you, refine your pitch, try and sell your product in a very, very safe environment that helps people understand the journey of being an entrepreneurship in a very short period of time, but also the challenges of how multifaceted you need to be an entrepreneur, right? So it's about design, it's about numbers, it's about doing a presentation, it's about how do you market it, it's about how you say a story, and it's also about convincing a bunch of people to give you money. So there's that particular very controlled environment, a beautiful controlled environment that helps them do that. I certainly think any youth entrepreneurship initiatives needs to be driven around giving them a safe space and finding a safe bunch of people who will help them guide through that and build that knowledge. I've always also thought about, women in tech. It's a very, very challenging space at the moment, although it's evolving. There's a lot more women who are working towards tech, there's a lot more women engineers now than ever, but I always find that there's still this little bit of a gap in there, right? When you think about women in tech, there's still that particular sector where if I went to market, for every 10 CVs I get of a male, I get one of a female for a role that I'm filling in, for a tech role that I'm filling in. So my passion has been around that, and I would love to have initiatives around girls in school, in high school, and in uni. It doesn't matter what stream they're studying. They don't even have to be in engineering. They could be in commerce. They could be in law, but actually helping them understand what they're studying to how that's applied in tech. Because everything that we do has got a tech aspect to it. You could be a chartered accountant, but you're still going to be using tech or working in tech companies or building financials for tech. So it's helping them understand industry use cases and industry real life use cases, industry participation around what they're doing and what is the tech aspect to that. How could they contribute to tech or learn a new tech or build a new tech in the area that they're playing in? So that's always been an interest for me. I'd be very keen to see if any initiative gets undertaken in that and participate in it. So hopefully that gives a bit of an idea on some of the things that I think might be fruitful.
Great. So, how can educational institutions better prepare students for entrepreneurial career?
It's a good question. As an industry practitioner, we've got various thoughts around it. But first and foremost, one of the things I would like to think about is actually not think of entrepreneurship as a course of study. I think of that as something that they need to do in all courses of their study. So whether they're studying to be a lawyer or doing a BCom or doing a BSc, I think entrepreneurship needs to be a coursework, a semester or a year that they do in terms of what they're studying. What are the skills that entrepreneurship really teaches? It's about resilience, it's about systems thinking, and it's about problem solving at the very least. These are all very important and skills that needs to be replicated no matter what they do. Imagine having everyone going into the workforce with an entrepreneurial mindset. That doesn't mean they'll have to build their own products or have their own company, but if they are in the workforce with the entrepreneurial mindset, it really helps fast track everyone's growth, individual, the organizations, and communities' growth as well. So to build that, I think entrepreneurship needs to be with a set number of frameworks. So there needs to be some key hard skills that they need to learn, or curriculum that they need to learn, soft skills that they need to learn, and how that's going to be measured and monitored. And more than anything else, the baseline that I spoke about as the self skills that they need to learn. How do the emotional quotient that they need to be at, how do they manage themselves? How do they manage themselves in context with others, and how do they manage others in the context of their vision? So it's about negotiation. It's about how do I, help explain myself a bit better, storytelling, and also about helping people buy into your vision, right? So taking people on the journey on what you want to deliver. These are all very key, important. More than anything else, embrace failure and resilience. So it doesn't matter what job you go out to, you still have to be very accepting of failure, learning from it and growing, but also building resilience. So no matter what happens, you're still going to have to wake up in the morning and put your best foot forward for the next day. So these are things I think across all courses, entrepreneurship just needs to run, whether it's any bachelor's course, and the earlier the better. So any bachelor's course it needs to run. The second thing is having industry partnerships. And when I say industry partnerships, not the large companies that come in and run workshops and run seminars and things like that, because they do it with the mindset of recruitment and actually massaging people's brain. But we're talking about people who are running small scale ventures, small scale industries, especially in the manufacturing space, right? People who actually manufacture stuff, whether it's software or whether it's any commodity or product. I think those are the kind of people who needs to be running these initiatives or industry partnerships in the universities, because they've got the best war stories to say, because every day they're managing challenges that is really, really amazing to think about, with in terms of cash flow, in terms of how they're managing people, their recruitment, how they retain people, and also about how they get their products to market despite having huge competition and high barriers to entry. How are they getting their products to market? What are some of the quirky marketing strategies that they're using to get in front of their customers or users? And especially very early startup. Often when we look for startup mentors, we look for people who are in the large scale-ups, right? Series A, Series B, who gone into IPO. But I reckon the startup founders who raised the seed funding are the best mentors for the students, because they can tell the stories of the war stories that, really, really amazing things on how they started from scratch and what they really did. Often when you hear the stories, you hear about how small they started and how well they became, but really, what did they do in the early days? How did they hustle? How did they get their first user or customer on board? That's the story that the kids need to actually hear on. What is it that they did? Nothing is very shiny in the early days, right? So what is it that they did to get that first user, first customer? How did they hustle? How did they put a sticky tape solution? It's a very famous story, like, how Uber was just really a taxi service, right? They just kind of stood around all the stadiums and things like that, and then kind of, were on phone calls getting people on different taxis. So how did they hustle to get the first customer in? How are they still hustling to get the 100th customer, so that they can raise a bit more cash to go from 100 to 2,000 or 5,000? Those are the stories that because those are the stories that actually teach resilience, right? And resilience without having the expectation of the big dollar numbers, because you're still on that journey to get to those dollar numbers. So industry participation in that sense, would be highly, highly beneficial. It kind of breaks all the thought process that I hear from students all the time on, I want to become an entrepreneur, but I know I want to be a unicorn. They kind of associate entrepreneurship with being a unicorn, and that's not always the case, and that doesn't always have to be the case. You can be a successful entrepreneur of all shapes and sizes, really. So that's all I have from that front. Hopefully that gives something to think about.
That was very informative. Can you share some success story of young entrepreneur you have mentored at Monash University?
Sure. I don't know if it's so this particular girl that I'm speaking about, I think she's a success story in my mind anyway, because trying to do a double degree engineering, and I think she's also the director of the coding club, the Girls Can Code Club in Monash, so which means she designs programs for her cohort of young girls who are doing, bachelor's or high school to come into hackathons and coding programs and things like that. So which is, I think, is a really, really great initiative to be a part of. And she's also she's also a kind of like a CPO of a small app company. And I say small, they actually have about 400, 500 users now, so which is actually reasonably small, but still, it's gaining traction. So that's a lot of things to do. And I think hats off to her. She's a significant success in my mind. Anyway, I do know a couple of other people who have gone on and actually developed a safety product for women. Like, so when women travel at night in Melbourne, they can access a safety app and find out who's really next to them, where's the nearest policeman, especially after midnight when they finish shift work and things like that, and they're waiting for the train or tram. So they know where the next available person is. So they can actually walk towards there in case they're feeling unsafe, or there's an emergency button and things like that. I think that's a very, very commendable app. I feel like being students, they kind of saw the problem that they were facing when they finished work at night, and they kind of just zeroed in on it and built that. I also work with a lot of master's students in the data science sphere who build community apps because they kind of see a problem, advising new immigrants and students about, the value of sunscreen, because often people come into here and don't wear sunscreen. So where can you get sunscreen? What kind of sunscreen? It's a very, very simple app to use, but it's so widely used because often international students have that gap of knowledge, in terms of, do I really need sunscreen here, or, is it just because it's too hot and I can just manage without it? And So these are some little things that I found along the way. There's some great examples of students who've seen problems, who've just gone on and said, okay, that's it, I'm going to do something about it. And I've actually gotten a product out very quickly. I'm talking about like 6 to 8 week kind of turnaround to just get an app out there that helps people.
Great, nice to hear. So, what do you believe are the 3 qualities that can make someone be a star in any field that he or she chooses?
First and foremost, resilience, I think, is the ability to manage things that are thrown at you and yet stand still. Often there are more things to break you than make you sometimes. So you're just going to have to work out what's your sweet spot and try and work. Resilience is absolutely number one. The second thing I think is empathy. Is having a very good understanding of who you are and people around you and what's driving them towards their decision making. So being empathetic towards other people's decision making will keep you grounded, but also keep you emotionally kind of at a very good equilibrium. So you're not really getting worked up over other people's actions, right? So, but also helps you make really good decisions. You always be making the right decision, and empathy is the second thing. And the third thing in terms of the skill set, I would think is, I don't know if it's curiosity or thirst for knowledge or seeking out knowledge, but that's very important. Always looking out. It's somewhere in the cusp of that is that continuous learning is to always keep reading and challenging what you're reading by reading other sources, like a diverse amount of information to understand, make a fair assumption of what's happening. Because it's very hard, as I said, to understand with all the kind of information that gets thrown at you, you never know what's right or wrong. So whenever you have an assumption, challenge that assumption and go read something that kind of breaks that assumption. So you have two sides to a story always. So there's a very interesting TED talk called The Danger of the Single Story. You always, if you read one thing, everything, all your decision-making frameworks and who you are as a person tend to be around that, right? So continuous learning and learning different aspects. So I think these are the three things that I would encourage everyone to get on the path of. It doesn't matter what you want to be in life, but these three things will always give you a good stead.
Great, thank you for sharing. So moving ahead, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Ms. Raji, co-founder, Appearition, for being our guest for today at Conversation with Consultants. Your presence and engagement helped to make it a success. So thank you for providing insight into your inspirational journey. Further, we would also like to thank our audience for listening patiently, and thank you everyone for joining with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat with you all, and good luck to everyone on the life journey, and enjoy your careers.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.